Hello, today I'm going to talk to you about the diagnosis of autistic spectrum disorder using the World Health Organisation's ICD-11. That's International Classification of Diseases, 11th edition. This edition is due to be published soon and is planned to take effect from 2022. I am Dr. Beth Colby, a psychiatrist from London on Talk Mental Health YouTube channel. Autistic spectrum disorder is a neurodevelopmental disorder. That is, it's a disorder of the development and functioning of the brain. The onset occurs in early childhood, though it may come to light only later on or even in adulthood. It affects 1 in 100 children and is a lifelong condition. Every person with autism is unique and different, but they all share characteristics to varying degrees. These two characteristics are persistent deficits in reciprocal social interactions and communications across various contexts. Let's just call that difficulties with social interaction and communication. The second characteristic is restricted, repetitive, stereotyped repertoire of interests and activities. Let's call that difficulties with behaviour, interests and activities. These two characteristics limit and impair everyday functioning. Individuals along the spectrum show a full range of intellectual functioning and language abilities. Now on to the first of the two main characteristics, difficulties with social interaction and communication. People with autistic spectrum disorder, or ASD, find it difficult to understand the social world, including social rules and expectations. They also find it difficult to develop, maintain and understand relationships. They have difficulties adjusting their behaviour across different social contexts and may have an abnormal social approach, have difficulty reading social cues and knowing when to speak and when to listen, and talk at length about their own interests. They find it hard reading facial expressions and have difficulty recognising and understanding their feelings and those of others. This makes them appear insensitive at times. Some people with ASD may not be interested in their peers and prefer to spend time alone. People with ASD have difficulties with both verbal and non-verbal communication. The difficulties in non-verbal communication used for social interaction range from poorly integrated verbal and non-verbal communication to abnormalities in eye contact and body language, or deficits in understanding and the use of gestures, to a total lack of facial expressions and non-verbal communications. Some people with ASD have good speech and language skills, but may have difficulty using their speech socially or difficulty sustaining a conversation. Their use of language may be over-formal, stereotyped, repetitive or unusual. Some people may have limited speech or no speech at all. The second characteristic of autistic spectrum disorder is difficulties with behaviour, interests and activities. People with ASD have a narrow range of interests that are unusual in intensity or focus, such as having lists of dates, routes or timetables, or strong attachments or preoccupation with unusual objects, or sometimes with people. Children may use toys like objects to line up. People with ASD find change very difficult and stick to fixed rules or rituals, insisting that things stay the same. And they may get very distressed if things change, alter even slightly. For example, they may need to go on the same route when they go to somewhere else, or they may eat the same food every day. They may have ritualised patterns of verbal or non-verbal behaviour with rigid ways of thinking and ways of greeting people. They find transition really difficult, including moving house, going to school, or puberty. They also may resist changes in details in their home environment, such as the movement of objects or furniture. People with ASD may have unusual responses to sensory aspects of the environment. For instance, they may have apparent indifference to pain or temperature and adverse responses to specific sounds, smells, tastes or textures. For instance, they may be very sensitive to the sound of a vacuum cleaner or the feel of certain clothes against their skin. They may smell or touch objects repeatedly and be preoccupied with watching lights and movement. Some people with ASD show unusual repetitive rhythmic movements or postures that are predictable in pattern, such as hand or finger flapping, or twirling, toe walking, or complicated whole body movements like rocking, crossing the legs, crossing and uncrossing legs, or marching on the spot. These are known as stereotypies, or in ASD they're known as stimming. People with ASD may stim if they're in an unknown environment, if they're anxious, overexcited, understimulated, or tired. They may also make repetitive sounds, words, or phrases. So we've talked about a brief introduction to what autistic spectrum disorder is and the two main characteristics of these in ICD-11, which is due to come into effect in 2022. Hope this has been interesting and enjoyable for you. Thank you for listening. Bye.